Hello there, fellow hunters. Welcome back to the another episode of the Struggling Hunters. Episode 13 we're working on tonight. You got me, Joe Imes, and Eric over there in Colorado.
How y'all doing?
Hopefully y'all are doing pretty good tonight. We got a little itinerary plan for you guys here tonight. We're going to be talking about what we're going to do during the hunt, or kind of do a little pre-hunt, I guess you can say, or not pre-hunt, but pre-prep. What we're going to be looking to do when we're out in the field. A little game plan, I guess, if you will, creating our own little hunting book or playbook to go by. But before I get any further, I want to say thanks to all those that are listening. Hopefully we're creating a good atmosphere for you guys just to sit back, relax, recall some good times, and plan for future good times, and just feel like you're sitting around the campfire and with your boots kicked off and just ready to talk stories.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let me add to that real quick. Definitely. I mean, we're doing good on our YouTube channel. Our podcast is doing all right. It's a little slower than our YouTube as far as growth, but it's unexpected of how many people have tuned into us, and it's very humbling. I feel like we probably say it every podcast, but we're just starting this. I mean, we're 3 months old, and as a podcast, and it's cool. It's very cool to know that people are actually giving us a listen.
Right, like that. It's kind of fun, and it's interesting, because this whole thing, I think we've said it before, but it's just, we're me and Eric, we've been hunting together the last couple of years. Like, we've hunted together as kids, and it wasn't until 2 years ago that we really started getting back together, and we realized that our hunting skills are a bit lacking. We thought we were, if you will, the ultimate hunter, the king of the throne, the man of the woods. I don't know what you want to call us, but we thought we were all that in a bag of chips. And what do you think, Eric? Are we?
No, not even close. I mean, yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time I think that I know a little bit about hunting or can talk the talk and walk the walk, there's definitely, in today's society, in today's world with all the social media, there's always that one guy that's, outdoing me big time, knows more than, or has forgotten more than I can remember.
Right.
And actually, I think I chopped that up. I think it's forgotten more than I know. But anyway, it's been a crazy journey, and man, it's just been fun though. Like this podcast stuff, we started out just kind of like, hey, let's give it a shot, see where it goes. But it's really starting to turn into a passion project. I mean, it's just really enjoying doing it and making content, and it helps with the engagement that we get. Obviously, we hope that to get more and more engagement as time goes on, but the positive feedback and everybody, every time that we talk to somebody outside of the podcast, we tell them what we're doing, and they get all excited for us. Oh, that's awesome, and so the whole journey has been really a lot of fun. And I feel like our improvement too is gotten a lot better since day one. And I mean, I'm just excited for the future of the podcast and see where everything goes. And our fans. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird to say fans, I guess. I didn't think of that one all the way through, but the people that listen to us or listen to us is, I mean, just them taking the time out to listen to what we're saying is awesome.
No, it is. And I hope that, that whoever's listening, that, they can find a little nugget find something that we've said that, like, oh, like that, I've never thought of it that way. I want to try putting that into my game book of hunting. That's kind of, like I said, that's why we started this, is we were kind of talking to each other and wanting to become better hunters. And being that we're 5 hours separated,
Yeah.
it was one of those things that we could do to get on and talk to each other and figure out ways that we can do better and become better hunters. And it kind of gave us a platform to put stuff on. And even though you don't see big antlers or an abundance of antlers on the wall, it is something that we are passionate about and something we want to get better at. So that may change, it may not change, and but we're going to share with that journey with you.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to have a nice trophy room, wouldn't it?
It would be.
Yeah.
Except I draw stick figures on my notepad, and that's like I draw them pretty big, so my notepads look like a pretty nice trophy room. But
yeah, I got a couple more, but that's like the biggest one that I have. The most points anyway.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't know. It is what it is, but yeah, it's been a fun journey, just all of this. And I mean, the premise of some of this, there's so many reasons that we started the podcast, but one of the premises was, well, maybe people would enjoy that journey with us a little bit of how we're getting better every year and how we're figuring out the areas that we hunt and watching what we do. I mean, a lot of other guys, I'm just kind of talking off the dome here, so forgive me for a second if I'm not making a lot of sense, but a lot of these other guys that have been doing this for years, and it's good that they do it, but they do stuff and don't really explain why they do it, and you kind of left more confused than anything. And so our premise was like, well, let's take people along the journey with us, and as we learn stuff, we'll try to share it and explain it the best we can, and hopefully down the road we all become better hunters, and I don't know, just have fun with it. And I mean, something that I can't emphasize enough on is, like, this is kind of outside of hunting, but taking a lot of people out there right now are probably trying to figure out their next steps in life or what they want to do. And Joe and I, we talked about creating content a few times, like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to be one of those YouTubers or whatever. And sometimes you gotta just do your best and forget the rest. And that's kind of, we took an opportunity, and the whole reason that we started doing these Zoom podcasts was we saw it on other podcasts, and I think I've said this before, but we saw it on other podcasts, and we're like, this Zoom stuff is getting pretty popular, and we're like, well, let's try it, let's do it. And here we are today. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know where this is going to end up in the future as far as this podcast, the growth or whatnot. But I mean, hopefully we grow sizable, and I mean, it'd be nice, but, I mean, right now, like, we just took like what we had around us. I mean, we don't have the best equipment. I've upgraded my equipment a little bit as this podcast has grown. Joe has too, actually. Got a computer finally.
Yeah, I'm sitting here over here like in the times of what do they call that? Like the old telephones, where you had to wind it.
Oh yeah,
Pick it up and listen to it. Yeah, that's me, and then you got Eric on the other side. That's trying to be in the current century we're in, and I'm stuck in the past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, though, I mean, we're just utilizing whatever tools we can to make it go. And so, besides the hunting stories or the hunting knowledge that you might gain from this podcast. The one thing is maybe you see us doing this and you go, you know what, I've been thinking about doing something too. And hell, these guys started with pretty much nothing, and look at them now. You know, that's what I want to inspire in other people too. You know, that's kind of where this is, you know, maybe inspiring one or two people as we go. I mean, that's pretty self-gratifying on its own. And
Yeah.
so here we are, you know, but yeah, so if you're thinking about starting a podcast or whatever, do it, you know, don't hesitate. Joe and I have hesitated a lot. You know, another thought kind of came to my brain, but as kids, we always talked like we'd watch the Outdoor Channel or whatever channel was on back then when we were kids, and oh man, you know, we get together on Monday morning at school, and oh man, it'd be so cool to hunt for a living and blah blah blah. Well, in today's age, man, you can make those dreams come true. Like as far as money and stuff or monetization, I mean, it might not all be there right away, or it might not be there for a while, but you can kind of live that dream, you know, is oh, I can film myself now. I can make a podcast. I can talk about my passions, and it's pretty cool. I just, you know, and that's kind of, I'm just trying to live that way, you know, kind of be a yes man, like that old movie. Uh, Yes Man, isn't it? Yes Man, isn't
Yeah.
that?
Yes, man.
Yeah,
With Jim Carrey.
yeah. You know, in a weird way, I mean, I know it was a comedy and blah blah blah, but whenever I watched that movie, like it did, like I was like, oh man, I should say yes to more stuff too. You know, like it kind of inspired me. I mean, I'm not saying that I was thinking of that whenever we started the podcast, but the point is just doing more. You know, not getting stuck in not getting left behind or stuck or trying to live up to something that isn't what you want to do in life. You know, going forward in life and going for what you want in life is pretty important. And I'm doing one of my classical rants, and so maybe we should move on to actual content. But
Yeah.
you know, I just want people to know that, you know, kind of it's just a
You know,
cool journey so far.
follow your dreams and make things happen. You may not be exactly where you want to be right now, but if you start somewhere, you'll end there at later.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But so we'll switch gears here and get going talking about what we kind of have, I guess, planned for you. Take you on this journey tonight or whatever. But so we like I said, we're going to be making our if you will, our game book for our upcoming hunts. Uh, so I guess Eric, what do you have? I guess the top of your list, or what it is that you're going to be doing first. I don't know if you want to discuss the hunting prep or you know what you're going to be doing in the field once you're actually out hunting. So I'll let you take that and I guess start with what you want.
Yeah. So when we talked about this topic, I just in the way I kind of interpreted it was I was just going to kind of start from the very get-go of this year, and which was right now I'm working on getting me a trail cam, and I'm going to go up scouting here in probably a few weeks. By the time this podcast comes out, I might have already been out for a weekend. I'm not 100% sure, but um gonna get some trail cams and also and spend some time scouting, trying to kind of figure out where they are right now. You know, my theory is I know they're going to move a lot, and they're probably not going to be in the same spot if I happen to spot them whenever I go up to the area that I'm hunting. You know, if I happen to spot them in that time, I know they're not going to be in that area, but at least I know that they once were, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so it'll be like a good starting spot to at least start with. The last few years that we've hunted together, you know, that was kind of the hardest thing. It was just trying to figure out which general area they may be in. So with that said, doing trail cams, the vegetation stuff that we've talked about in our past podcasts, I'm going to pay more attention to that and try to, you know, spot vegetation and just really kind of pay attention to the land with scouting and trail cams. And then moving on from that, I'm going to work on, so in time past, I've always just kind of got on Onyx maps, either on the computer or on my phone, spotted a few things from the best that I could tell, and spotted, what I would like to hunt, where I'd like to hunt. But Google Maps or Google Earth is a lot more detailed. And so with that in mind, I'm going to do a little more Google Earth research and try to also find where I want to go. And then I believe it was either an XLM or a KLM. I can't remember, but if you like download your waypoints on Google Earth, you can transfer them through a KLM file or an XLM file. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember. I
What
just
about an
learned that.
ABC file?
What's that?
An ABC file?
You're trying to be serious too. That's cute.
Thanks for noticing.
Yeah. Anyway. I'm gonna create waypoints on Google Earth, and then you can transfer those to Onyx Maps through the KLM or XLM.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I didn't know you could really. I'm sure. I think I thought there might be a way, but there's a couple things that when I was scouting last weekend that I was on Google Earth that I was able to like see peaks a little bit easier than I can on Onyx where I was at, and so I was wanting to be able to transfer where those peaks were to on my onto my Onyx. But the only way I could think to do that was to copy down the longitude and latitude and then enter that into my Onyx. But it'd be a lot easier. Well, it sounds lazy, but if I didn't have to write anything down and just be able to transfer it over.
Yeah. So I actually heard that information, and I haven't put it into practice obviously quite yet, but I was listening to the Born and Raised podcast, I believe. I mean, credit those guys. They had the Onyx guys on podcast here not too long ago, and they were talking about doing that, and I was like, oh wow, that's a cool trick. So I'm gonna try it, and maybe we can actually make a video about it. I don't know. I'll work on that, or think about that and try to make a video about how to transfer the file and so on and so forth. So but anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna do some Google Earth scouting, and then if there's any waypoints or anything that I create on there, I'll try to get them transferred over to Onyx. That's going to be kind of new to me. Like I said, I've usually just get on Onyx, kind of scroll around the area, and oh, that looks like there's a opening there. There's a slope there. Whatever, just whatever. So yeah, that's going to be a little new for me. And then moving off of that part of scouting, the other thing that I'm working on. So my hunt is in the end of October, beginning of November, I believe. And so I'm going to work a couple things that I want to update for my clothing is I want to get a couple base layers, top and bottom, and then also a mid layer for my top. So I'm going to be working on that. I'm planning on going through QU for my base layers. They seem to have pretty nice base layers. They're the zip off. The other ones that are kind of appealing to me are from First Light. They have like a 3/4 pant, which kind of makes sense to have a 3/4 pant that goes down just above your boot line. So if you want to zip it off, you don't have to take off your boots or anything. You just zip. So I might get that base layer from First Light, but I've been looking at the QU ones for a long time, and um, I I, I kind of favor QU. Their hunting clothes a little bit, so that's something that I'm gonna look into, trying to update my clothes a little more. Um, and then going on to hunting whenever I'm there. So I guess this is like how I'm gonna prep myself for hunting. Well, how I'm just planning on hunting, I guess in general, is I'm gonna try to pick 3 areas to focus on, and then I'll pick the one that I think might give me the best shot, and obviously hit that one first. Um, I'll pick the 3 areas, look for sign and activity, and something that I've been hearing from other guys, podcasts and YouTube channels is like not being afraid to, if you're not seeing activity, to not be afraid to leave it, to not get stuck on one area too much. Um, so one thing I'm going to look for is sign, activity. If I'm seeing activity and a lot of sign, I'll obviously stay in that area for as long as it takes to hopefully get my animal. But if I'm not seeing either one of those, then I'm gonna move on to another area. That's part of my hunting plan. Um, Another thing that I'm gonna try to do is, instead of going out in the morning and hunting for a few hours, and then 9-10 o'clock rolls around, going back to base camp, I'm gonna just hunt all day, just stay out there all day, and you know, whether that means moving, not necessarily leaving the area, but maybe moving locations at certain times in the day, or whatever it takes. I'm just gonna hunt all day, not take a rest, or not go back to base camp, basically.
Right. Find like someplace maybe there's a good vantage point that you can just set and hopefully maybe glass a whole a couple hillsides or something, or someplace where you can just set and watch an area easily without having to cover a bunch of uh, yeah, like a huge. You don't have to walk far to get there, or maybe you have to walk there a little bit, but you can set there for your mid morning to afternoon siesta, and then get back to where you want to be. So that way you're always covering area, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's pretty much, yeah, it's pretty simple as that. I just know in years past, so two things that I want to kind of change up is, in years past, I feel like I would do a lot of, I mean, 9-10 o'clock would roll around. Go back to base camp till the evening hunt.
So let me see if I can phrase this correctly. Did you? So I get in my head is like, are you setting yourself up for failure? So let me see if I can get out what I want, how I'm trying to say it. So do you think at times, maybe not all the time, but at times that you kind of go, well, I'm going to hunt till 10 o'clock and then I'm going back to camp. And so kind of somewhere in your mind, something, like you kind of go, well, I'm not going to hunt that hard because I know I'm going back to camp at 10.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure that probably plays a factor. I think sometimes the hunger kicks in or whatever, and you're like, base camp sounds kind of good. Lunch is over there, and whatever other, it slows down, or no activity and boredom. You start just trying to entertain yourself and think of new things to do. And I mean, I just think I've developed a habit of it over the years. I think that was kind of the way we were kind of taught to hunt, is like, oh, got to get there before light, hunt for a few hours, then go home, or go to base camp, or whatever that looks like. And so, but I just, it hasn't worked the last couple of years of kind of hunting that way. So I'm changing the game. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my elk this year. And so my goal is to try to be out there. I might not do it every day. I mean, so we got, I believe, 9 days total of hunting, or however that works.
Yeah.
Um, 8 days total of hunting. And so obviously my first couple days, I'm going to hit it like that pretty hard. might take a day there where it's like, all right, I'm just going back to base camp, rest up, and go for an evening hunt, and then maybe do it again for the next couple of days. What I mean, just kind of whatever. But I think, I think boredom kicks in, or no activity. But something else that I really want to work on this year, that I feel like I always kind of have the thought in my head, but I never give it the full chance, is I'm always trying to walk or get to the animals, but I never really give it enough time to let the animals come to me, if that makes sense, as far as just being more patient out there. And I get to I've said this before in the podcast, but I guess it's episode 13, so that's probably going to start happening a lot more as time goes on. But um I have a problem of getting to a hilltop or wherever, and then going, this is all right, but I wonder what's over that hill, and maybe I just need to kind of reel it in a little bit and just say, well, let's just sit at this hilltop, see if anything pops out or comes to me, and give it more time, and be more patient. I mean, this turkey season, it kind of happened. Well, I didn't see no turkey, but but it happened. Me and my son Carter, we were kind of hiking along, and I said, you know what? Let's just sit here, and maybe we'll start hearing something or whatever. And before too long, there's a couple does that popped out, like just kind of popped out of nowhere too. It's crazy how they just pop out of nowhere, literally.
So kind of like on that note, there's an article I read years ago. I can't remember um, what magazine it was in or who was even written it, but it was by a photographer, like a wildlife photographer. And he was saying that, like, for him to get the wildlife shots that he wants, he has to go into an area. I think he says he gives himself like 2 or 3 days,
Mm.
and he'll stay within like 100 square feet area and just slow down and be calm, and then like the animals will start coming up to him. Like they get used to him being there and without being and not being rowdy, noisy. Or his presence is a lot calmer, or maybe a lot more respectful of the area. His demeanor is different, and he gets to where the animals will, like you said, will come out and play, or come out, start to see the wildlife, and being able to get those, I guess, his cool photography shots.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try it, so we'll see if it works.
You've had a little bit of success there on your turkey hunt with it, so
yeah. I mean, it wasn't the animal I was going for, but it definitely worked. I mean, we were sitting there probably 30, 40 minutes, and yeah, we saw does running around. Those does didn't even know. Well, they probably did know we were there, but they didn't care. I mean, they just moseying on around them. They're probably 50, 75 yards away, and just hung out. They didn't,
right.
And so yeah, obviously during hunting season, after a few bullets fly, I'm sure elk and all the animals are a little more skittish than in during spring turkey season. But it is a goal that I want to do, is just try to be more patient. That's really the biggest thing that I want to do this hunt season, is just be more patient. Let the animals come to me, but also be more vigilant. And I can't stress enough, I think if you're not seeing a lot of sign or a lot of activity at all, to just move on. And that was kind of my last bullet point, was just move to a new location.
I think kind of like what you're saying there too about moving on and going off your sign. I think a couple of times, as we're out there elk hunting, that we've saw some sign, like we saw some elk scat or whatever. But I feel like some of it, like we've come across some good piles of it, where you can tell they've been. But I feel like if I remember right, some of it or the majority of it probably was older than we even thought it would be, or we were thinking it was.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like, oh man, I wish I remember exactly what you said, but whenever I was like, how old do you think that is? And you're like, well, I had an old boy tell me one time that, do you want to take it? Do you know what I'm talking about yet?
No, not
Oh,
yet.
The only way, I'm probably going to chop it up. Maybe you can clean it up for me if I mess it up, but, the only way I can estimate how or when
Oh, how old it is by when I see it falling out of its butt.
yeah. I
Yeah.
like that one. That's pretty funny.
I mean, there's a whole lot of truth to that. Everything goes into factor to make that turd age quicker, but
Yeah. I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast yet, but still cracks me up. Last year, whenever we were hunting and we were seeing all the sign and everything, but I stopped in my tracks. I was ahead of you a few yards or whatnot, and I stopped in my tracks, and I'm sitting there sniffing, and I'm like, and you come walking up, and I'm like, I think I smell an elk, and you're like, it kind of smells like poop, and I look down, and I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. That was so embarrassing, but it was pretty funny though. I still crack up about that one. I think I think it kind of plays tricks on you whenever you're out there and you're just dying to see something. You just want to see something so bad. I think sometimes you play tricks on yourself and
right,
like
you kind of played up more than it really needs to be, and you're like, oh, I'm going to stick right here because it's here, and I think you're right that you're kind of played up more. And I mean, you do have to be cautious, I feel, of paying attention.
yeah. Yeah, but you can definitely play tricks on yourself for sure. Uh, Another thing, I think we only heard it like one time, but this was like early October or late October, early November. I can't remember exactly when, but do you remember whenever? I mean, it could have been anything. It could have been us playing tricks on our minds, but I remember that one time that we like both thought we kind of heard like a faint bugle. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. I mean, kind of tripped me out that we still heard that. I mean, it has that really doesn't have anything to do with anything, but maybe the listeners would like to know that uh, every once in a while in the later season, once in a blue moon, elk will.
Right. Still touch one off.
Yeah. But that was pretty crazy. But as far as my 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 plans for scouting and hunting, I guess that's kind of it. To touch on it real quick, I guess I could say like as far as food, gonna try to just do some meal prep and stuff that I don't know exactly what it's gonna look like, but I'd like to try to make some content for the channel of like how we're prepping for camp and do some meal prep stuff for the channel. Um, we'll see how that goes, but that would be the other thing is food. I mean, food's the most important, I think, or one of the most important things out there because it's kind of what keeps you energized and
Well, and that's why you're out there too, right? You're out there to fill that freezer with food.
well, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, um,
But yeah, so I guess on my side of it, as I've been trying to put together my hunt plan, it's kind of interesting this year because I still got the leftover tags haven't gone up yet, but there's typically always archery tags and whatnot available, so I still got to pick up mine here in Utah. It doesn't become available, I think, till the 16th of July. but so where I'm getting at is I'm going to try to do 2 hunts this year, which is the buck, an archery deer hunt, and then an archery elk hunt. And those both start at the same time. And they end at the same time. And so, and it's good, I'm hoping I can be successful. But with as far as planning for my hunt, I'm going to be hunting 2 different areas. I got 3 areas I can that I know of that I can hunt, but I think I'm going to be in within those. There are 3 different areas within the state of Utah for the deer. I'm sorry, for my deer hunt, I'll be in one unit, and then I got, with the archery, it kind of opens up to any legal general area for your bull tag or spike tag. But so what I'm getting at is it's been a little different for me for this year on planning for my hunts, because I want to spend the opening weekend for the deer hunt, and that for in my pocket of tricks this year, it's going to be number one, like Eric mentioned, is getting up earlier and trying to get into my spot where I want to hunt, before I actually have gotten there in the past. I feel like at times I'm getting there right at light, or right when starting to hunt, not really giving them a lot of time. And I feel like I need to be in that area earlier, because the animals will be moving sooner than I would think they are. I think, I feel like I don't see as much game in the morning as I feel like I should. And I think partly part of that factor is the fact that I'm maybe showing up to where I'm going to hunt too late, even though I'm still early in the morning. I'm late according to when the elk are in that area. So for the elk hunt, that's one thing I want to focus on, is getting to where I want to hunt earlier. And that actually is going to have to play the factor of, making sure I'm getting to bed, not sitting around the fire too late. So
yeah, that kind of it's tricky for you though, because you have that sleep problem.
Yeah, it's not fun if I don't forget to take my melatonin. I'm up all night and I don't fall asleep. And but hopefully I don't forget it this year and try to get to bed early.
Yeah. Last year, whenever when we were camping, I didn't know that, and like I was all tired. I was pretty dang tired, and you're like wide awake. I'm watching a movie. You want to watch? I'm like, no, I'm falling asleep, bro.
Yeah, that's part of my tricks to get to go to bed, is I gotta put a movie on.
Yeah. Because I was dog tired whenever.
Yeah, I can be dog tired and lay down and go to bed, and like I can go to sleep, or I'll lay there and just toss and turn all night. I don't get it, but it is what it is. But continuing on is trying to understand the terrain a little bit. I think I mentioned it before. As far as the elk hunting side of it goes, knowing that the elk are a little more nomadic than the deer, I'm going to try to focus on the north-facing slopes a little bit more, benches on those slopes, and then paying attention to what the food is like. And then, like Eric was said, I'm going to copycat him, and just, I got written down, I'm going to walk more. I want to spend more time trying to cover the distance. It's kind of, it's one of those things that you're us as a bipedal animal, having 2 feet, trying to go up and down some of those ridges, canyons and valleys. It's a workout.
Mm-hmm.
And the elk, having the gait that they have, the stride and the length of legs that they have, they can move quickly and easily up over that terrain without really even, giving it much thought. And it's, that's, again, that comes into being in shape. But, to play their game, you kind of got to go find them. Some people, I'm sure they got to figure it out better than we do. They don't have to hike as much, but I feel like I'm in that still trying to figure the game out. So I got to do a lot of ground pounding, so that's going to be one of in my bags of tricks is one of the very easiest things, is just spending time walking, trying to cover more ground. Like you said, if you don't try not to be attached to one particular area, if you're not seeing the sign, just biting the bullet, and just going, nope, I'm going. I'm not seeing what I want to see, so I'm gone.
Yeah, it's a little tricky though, isn't it? Because I mean, you want to be more patient and make sure that the area is not
True.
Nothing there, but then also just kind of just saying, it's time to move on. So
well, and on that note too, so as I sat here trying to contemplate my hunt last year, as we're talking about these things, situations pop up, and last year, I feel like I hunted pretty hard. I feel like I covered a lot of ground, but as looking back, I didn't put myself really where the elk were when they were. So I guess let me explain myself. So I'm so used to rifle hunting and deer hunting, mule deer hunting, that I'll find a glassing point, and I'll spend my time glassing. Well, I happened to see elk that were way down the canyon, and I kind of went that direction, but I never went into where I saw them. Does that make sense?
yeah,
I never put myself where they were, and now looking back, I should have, I should have been right down in there. So what if I busted them out? I'm still learning. I don't quite have it all figured out, and that would have been a great learning experience for me if I would have said, what, especially bow hunting. I don't have to. I got to be within that 40 to 30-yard range, or 20-yard range, or whatever. No more than 40 for what I'm going to tell myself this year. But I didn't put myself into that area where they were. Where this year I want to try to, if I see them, I want to try to work my being an archery hunter, I want to work my way closer and put myself where I saw them and try to maybe work backwards and try to figure out where they went. But
so was the logic of not going down there, was that part of because you were afraid of busting them out of there? And
yeah, that was part of it, because where they were was pretty well, where I saw them and how I figured I could get to them. I had to bust through a bunch of scrub oak. And so in my head, I was like, well, being a deer hunter, or you're always taught you got to be quiet. You don't want to scare anything out of the area. And so I kind of hit this, this hedge, or of scrub oak. And I didn't want to push my way through it, because it was quite the distance to travel through it. And I knew I was going to make a lot of noise. And so I didn't want to drop down in there, because I felt like I was going to, bust them out of there. But one of the things that, after talking to other hunters and coming to realize is, the elk are a bigger animal. And so they're okay with noise. Now it's not like I'm going to go in there and just, plow my way through it. I'll methodically and slowly work my way through this area, but so like now it's, oh yeah, elk do make noise. I am safe to make some noise, try to be careful that a twig doesn't fly over and hit my arrows, so that causing a noise that the elk aren't used to hearing in the woods. It's more man-made, so it's going to sound different. But as long as I can keep the noise I am making somewhat consistent to what they're going to be doing going through the brush, yeah, I do got to be careful, but at the same time, I don't have to be as careful as I was playing it out in my head.
Right. Yeah, well, that's kind of, I mean, it just adds to everything. I mean, you get you get scared of making too much noise and busting them out of there, but then it's okay to make some noise. It's just one of those things that, it's just it's tough, man. It's tough to make that call to know what's right. So I understand it, especially like you and I have probably more deer hunting experience, so it's more being about stealth and trying to be extra quiet. So then to transfer everything that you learned about deer hunting over to elk hunting, but it is okay to make some noise. It's just it plays with your mind. You just don't,
Right.
Even though that they say it's okay to make noise, you're like, but I don't want to.
Right. Yeah. And so I guess kind of to wrap my thing up. So back on the deer thing, I do have permission to hunt some of the private property, and I'm hoping that's where I can hunt. But I've been also trying to scout out other areas, and I'm just back to trying to find places where I can just glass an area. I think that's the main thing, and just finding places that you can spend time at and watching, and then the last thing too, I think is going to help is I'm just going to copycat you again, is just staying in the woods longer.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Well, I guess I know why, because it's how I was raised or how I've seen other people hunt. But you hit that, you got to be back in time for lunch to eat lunch.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. There's no rule on. Like you're going back because kind of everyone else does that, and
it's what we were taught in a sense.
Right. And you're kind of like, oh, I want to go back and eat a good lunch and keep, and keep going. But I feel like I want to be in the woods, because that's where my chances of seeing my quarry are going to be,
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like you kind of go, well, you're never going to see them sitting back at the camp, but you always hear those stories where like people are like, oh, sitting back at camp, eating lunch. Like my wife's grandpa tells a story of shooting this nice 5-point mule deer buck when he went back at camp, eating a sandwich.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not to say it doesn't happen, but if your odds, I feel like, are a little greater if you stay in the woods where they're going to be.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, you never know when they're going to pop out. I mean, how many times have you been driving down the road after you gave it up for the day or whatever, you're driving down the road and a big old buck or a bull just jumps out right in front? I mean, it's happened to me numerous times,
Correct. Yeah, it's happened to me too, where you kind of like, well, I'm going to stash my gun, you unload your gun and when you get in the truck, but you always are like, I'm going to put it where I really don't need to worry about getting to it. And then, well, what do you know?
Yeah. No, tell me about it. It's happened a couple of times over my life.
So one of the things too, that as we're sitting here talking, I kind of got wondering, because I'll be the first. I'm not the first to admit it between the two of us, but we've been pretty open about it. Is our success rate you talked about turkey hunting and not seeing any turkeys this year. And then actually being in season and hunting and whatnot. But, what helps you stay motivated when you're out there? Do you not, or is it just like, are you just out in the woods and that's what it's all about?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I don't know.
Or
Well,
are you too stupid to quit?
probably too stupid to quit. Um, yeah, geez, man, well, I guess being optimistic, right? Always just thinking of the positive. I don't really think that, like, whenever I go hunting, I never think, oh, I'm definitely not getting nothing this year. I'm always thinking I'm getting myself a bull this year. Matter of fact, actually, that's what I was kind of saying last year after hunt season was over and I was telling my hunting stories. I feel like what the trend that I go through now that we're doing a podcast, it's going to be different because I'm going to be trying to hunt more and more as time goes on. But I feel so last year after hunt season, I was telling a couple people, I was like, I go through this trend of like hunting season comes, I'm all excited. I think I really feel within every inch of me that I'm going to be successful and get my bull. And then the season is over. I don't get anything. I'm mad as hell. And part of me is like, man, I do want to give up. And then July, August starts coming, hunt season, the weather's changing, and I just get excited again. It's like something that I feel like it's just part of my DNA, right? So maybe that's being too stupid to quit part, but it's just part of my DNA. Like, that fall season starts coming, and the two things that whenever the fall hits, that kind of goes through my mind is hunting and football.
Right.
And I just like this feeling comes over me of just wanting to be out there in the woods and hunting, and yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. I never really thought of. Nobody's ever asked me, like, you never get an elk, so why do you do it every year? I don't know.
No,
It's funny though.
True.
And it's yeah, I don't know. I never really thought about it. I just love I just love this stuff though. And there's so much, I guess, like, to go a little deeper, there's so much to hunting that wants to make me better. For one, I want to be a better woodsman. There's a part of me with the whole hunting thing that I like the idea of learning how to live off the land, even if it is only for short spurts, for hunting seasons, living off the land, or, a little bit living off the land. I mean, like me and you, we kind of do a base camp kind of deal, but and making you stronger and making you a better woodsman every year. Every year I feel like we've learned something. We might have not been successful, but we've learned something. We've taken something away from every season and just kind of add it to the next year. And the biggest thing that that you got to do though is if you're not successful in a hunt season, you got to change it up a little bit, I think, because you can't keep doing the same thing, getting the same results, and but expecting a different result every year.
Right.
But let me shoot that right back at you though, Joe. Like, what about you? Like, what keeps you going back?
I think it's the story, like I love like setting and, like talking with an older hunter, like uncles and whatnot, and seeing them like relive their struggles as they were hunting. And, like I don't know, I guess I kind of would like to be able to have those stories to share at some point, like as we have done on this, that's what I guess why I've kind of enjoyed this is I've been able to share my stories back, a handful of times, and will continue. But like what keeps me motivated and keeps me going and is just, it's kind of like the unknown. You don't know what stories or what's going to happen during that hunt. What, like what are you going to end up with a 2-point? Are you going to end up with like the biggest buck on the mountain, the biggest elk, or, a little raghorn, you don't know. And that whole journey is, one of the things that I guess I kind of enjoy. It kind of keeps me going is because, like you said, like, well, what's on that next mountain ridge? Like I don't see. So, you kind of keep going. And then, but during the hunt, I will say I do get discouraged when I don't see anything. It's kind of like, well, I'm gonna, maybe not hike that far today, or, but I'm trying to change, so trying to, so that way I can become more successful, and trying to tear down those mental barriers that that maybe have kept me from being as successful as I've wanted to be. And that's this year, that's kind of like the motivation that I'm taking into this year, is just trying to tear down those walls that I kind of see that I've put up in front of myself to keep me from possibly being as successful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of had a thought. You said about, the older men talking about their stories and successes. And I feel like hunters, so we kind of put ourselves in a corner because we call our podcast as Struggling Hunters. So obviously it kind of put us in a corner to talk about our struggles. But most hunters are kind of like gamblers, right?
Right.
They only talk about their winnings most of the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So I don't know, just kind of a,
Or they don't really talk about that little 2-point that they shot, or
yeah.
but that's my story too. Is I had, the 2 bucks that I've taken have all been little guys.
Yeah.
But that's all part of the story. But it's you get yourself down, and I feel like you gotta, like you said, go back maybe midweek. I think we were talking before the podcast. You get going, and you can hunt yourself so hard to where you wear yourself out, and it's you don't want to do that, or maybe you do, but keeping yourself motivated and rested and fed, that's one of the big things to keep yourself happy and motivated to keep hunting through when it's hard.
Yeah. That's definitely something that I'm going to focus on also, on top of everything else, is trying to get a good night's rest. Try to get good sleep, or as good as I can. And just that way I get myself ready for the following day and feel as rested as I can. And, I just feel like, I guess what some of this comes down to is putting a lot more energy and time and effort into being successful this year, because it has been quite a dry spell for myself. You've been a little more successful. I mean, what was it, like 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that you got your deer?
My deer, that was 2 years ago. I didn't draw out last year, and the year before I drew out a rifle buck tag, and that's when I got my last deer, was 2 years ago.
Yeah. So it's not, I mean, you've been a little more successful than I have in the last few years, but
that's at least on the deer side of it. On the elk side of it, I've really yet to really been successful on the elk.
yeah. Well, and I mean, I guess that's where we're together. We're 2 peas in a pod. But but it is what it is. But we're me and Joe. I know we both kind of feel the pressure of trying to really get us an elk this year. So hopefully we're both successful. But it'll be nice if just one of us becomes successful too. So
Yeah.
um,
So I guess just to kind of wrap up my little thing uh, is my little bullet points where like to for the food, not my food but the deer's food, paying attention to that, and then the terrain that's going to be in or they're going to be in, glassing points and walking and spending more time in the woods, and getting an earlier start. So that's kind of be my the beginnings of my playbook for this year.
yeah, that hopefully that works for both of us. Excuse me. Hopefully
But
that. Go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say it's kind of interesting. Like, we came up with a topic to try to discuss this week, and um, it's kind of interesting how like both of us kind of have new ideas on how we wanted to do it, and they're pretty much the same.
They
And
kind
that's
of
not even
align.
like talking to each other.
Yeah. Well, shoot, me and you like through all this uh, podcasting, and I feel like we kind of do that a lot. Actually, it's it's quite amazing. Like we were trying to come up with a logo, and and we threw our ideas out to each other, and they were so similar to each other. It was pretty crazy. There's been a couple other things too. It's like, wow, man, we're kind of running on the same wavelength here. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, I don't know what else can you do besides hunt a little harder, wake up a little earlier, like you said, and you know,
Well, that's
um,
like the one things too that the takeaway from it is that it's not going to cost you anything, but what it's going to take away from you, or how it's going to affect you. Like it's you that's going to keep you from those things from happening. It's not like it's not like, well, I just can't get to it this year. It's, well, are you going to do it? And that's for me, that's a wall that I'll say it's hard, getting up in the morning and trying to stay motivated and staying out in the woods longer. That's, I mean, not that staying out in the woods longer isn't hard. It's just like you were saying, you get like, oh, it's going to be funner back at camp, while these are considered dead times when the animals aren't going to be out.
right, quote unquote.
Right.
For the podcast listeners, he
Oh yeah,
he
sorry.
quoted.
I made quotation marks with my fingers. Sorry, guys. Good thing I got Eric there with me.
Yeah. Keeping it on, keeping the train on track here. But yeah, I feel the same way. I feel, I mean, you just gotta. I feel like so the first couple days of hunting is real easy to stay motivated. You're excited. It's your first chance to get your elk, and the first couple days are real exciting. But then, toward the end of like probably the second day, not really seeing anything, it does start to weigh on you a little bit, and you kind of see your season slowly going away, and it's hard to keep motivated. So I mean, that's part of my focus, is just not really thinking that way, or not letting those negative thoughts set in my mind, and just keep pushing forward, keep going until I'm successful, and I feel like once we kind of hit that success where we both get our elk, maybe the pressure will be off of us a little bit, or we'll go, okay, that worked pretty well for us. I mean, we got our elk, and so that's the way we need to hunt every year, and then kind of transition from there. Maybe that was a one-off. Maybe we got lucky in that situation, and we got to change it up again in the future. But I feel like that first elk is just, it's kind of like throwing all these ideas at a dartboard, and hoping one sticks, and until one does, then it's all just kind of a big old guess. um I mean, you watch it's funny, you watch these outdoor channels or these hunting shows or whatever there is, and whatever you're watching, and you're like, oh man, I can do that. I'll do that same thing this year. And you go out there and try to do like what you picked up on their half-hour special, and it doesn't work for you.
Right.
So I don't know. It's difficult, but at the same time, we're out there. I mean, I think me and you both seen it whenever you went up and hunted where I hunt. The road hunters,
Yeah.
it's amazing watching how many people just drive the roads, and I mean, it probably works for them, but I feel like that's where it kind of gives us strength. I know there's plenty of people. I mean, this is all public land, so everybody's free to do whatever they want, but I know there's people out in the woods, but it sure is funny that when we start walking out in the woods, how we don't really ever run into anybody, but we jump out on the road and there's everybody else is on the road. So it's kind of like, what, just a lot of people are road hunting. So it kind of I think that really gives us an advantage to run into something for sure. Hopefully anyway. I mean, I think the one advantage to road hunting is you get to cover a lot of area in a shorter amount of time.
And it's easier.
And it's a lot easier. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the big thing. I mean,
but then I don't want to like take it away. Like, if that's how whoever's listening, if that's how you can get out and that's how you can spend your time hunting, then more power to you. That's your game plan. That's your playbook.
Yeah. Well, and to add on to like why we do this every year, I mean, I think I've said it before on the podcast itself, but if I was solely solo hunting all the time, I would fall out of the desire to do it every year, to keep coming back and trying again. But because I get to hunt with you, because I get to take my son out, that's one of my biggest motivations. Is he's a pretty young guy still. He's not even legal to hunt himself, but I do love taking him out because two reasons is I feel like hunting for me, my relationship with hunting kind of formed me as a child and really developed me in a lot of ways. And the way I think and feel and about life, and being out there in the woods, you get humbled real quick, so it really inspired me to want to take my son out there and show him the way of the land, if you will, the best I can. And hopefully I get better as time goes on. So that's a big motivator. That's one of my biggest motivators, is showing him this. And whenever he gets older, and, by the time he's 12, he's going to kind of know what to do already. I'm not going to have to start from square one. I mean, he's going to be, I got this, I'll more than likely I'll be right there with him, but he'll have an idea by the time he has his gets his hunter safety and his tags, and he's going to be pretty advanced, and I'm excited for that time. I'm going to be really excited, and I think the chances for him to be successful will be better than the chances that I ever had. So I'm really excited about that. But the other biggest thing about why I do it every year is obviously the friends and the community. I love the hunt community. I love, people at work, or most people that I work with, pull over, or my job, I'm kind of in my truck a lot, or in my pickup a lot, doing different things at different locations, but pull over and talk to one of the guys at the locations, and I'd say 9 out of 10 of them hunt, so it's like a community. It's just fun to brag about what you did or didn't do, or
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's just, I don't know, it's just fun too. Like when you get with someone that hunts, or maybe they don't hunt but enjoy the woods, but like you can share in that experience of being out in the woods or the hunt, and it's, it's fun. It's easy to pass time, like before you know it, you're an hour and 5 minutes into a podcast.
Is that what we hit?
Yeah.
I'm glad
Or maybe we're not, maybe we're just a little bit longer than But yeah, we're right in that time frame.
Here it is again. So me and Joe we've talked about reeling it in, trying to do half-hour podcasts. And man, it seems like by the time a half hour comes by, that's just right whenever we're flowing. And next thing we know, it's an hour long. And so I know some people probably can't listen for the whole time, but we just enjoy the time that you can listen. And that's really what it's about is, if you can be there to listen, we appreciate it. If you can't do the full hour, completely understand. It's not like it's a competition. You don't have to do the whole hour or anything. Just listen to what you can. And we're going to keep making content for everybody and keep doing what we do. And hopefully you guys keep supporting us, and we appreciate every minute of it for sure.
For sure.
Should we wrap things up then with that?
Yeah, let's go ahead. I think I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah, me too actually. So yeah, guys, with that said, then thanks for listening to the Struggling Hunters with Joe.
See you guys. Have a good night.
And myself, Eric. See you guys. Have a good night. Thanks for listening, and we appreciate everything, the engagement and the likes and everything else that you guys are doing. It's helping our algorithm, and just appreciate everything. So thank you guys for another episode of the Struggling Hunters, episode 13. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.